Welcome students, I am Nafiza, your social science teacher. We were discussing lesson agriculture. Today's topic we will discuss technological and institutional reforms, contribution of agriculture to the national economy and the impact of globalization on Indian economy. Before we start today's topic, let's recapitulate the points we have discussed till now. We have started the lesson with types of farming and three types of farming in that: primitive subsistence farming, intensive subsistence farming and commercial farming. After that we have discussed about and then we have discussed about three cropping seasons of India: Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. Rabi during winter, Kharif during monsoon and Zaid during summer. In between winter and monsoon, Zaid season and the different crops grown in that season. Then we have covered the major crops of India. In major crops of India, we have studied the staple food crops like rice, wheat, millets which consist of jawar, bajra and ragi, maize, pulses. Then we have discussed food crops other than grains, that is sugarcane, oil seeds, tea, coffee, horticulture in the sense fruits and vegetables. And then we have discussed about non-food crops, and in that we have covered rubber, and then fiber crops like silk, sericulture, and then cotton and jute which is also known as golden fiber. So today we are discussing the topic technological and institutional reforms. So what are the reforms that are brought in agriculture from the time of independence so that the agricultural productivity can be increased in India? So as mentioned in the previous pages, agriculture has been practiced from thousands of years. Indus Valley civilization and people used to stay near the river Indus. Reason for the purpose of agriculture. From thousands of years on, agriculture is going on. But are we following the same technique, same method? No. There are lot many changes. There are lot many technological reforms. There are lot many institutional reforms also. So sustained uses of land without compatible techno-institutional changes have hindered the pace of agricultural development. This word means sustained in the sense continuous use of land without the proper use of technology and institutional changes. Then what happened? It has hindered in the sense stopped the pace growth of agricultural development. In the sense, if you won't follow technological and institutional reforms, then and using the land continuously in the same way with same old traditions, we cannot develop the agriculture. It may not lead to agricultural development. Okay, in many places in India still people are following the primitive methods itself. In spite of development sources of irrigation in the sense watering to the plants through bore wells, tanks, canals, most farmers in large parts of the country still depend upon monsoon and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. It's not wrong to depend upon monsoon and natural fertility, but the production is low. If we go with depend only on monsoon instead of going on with irrigation or without using any kind of latest technological developments, if the same primitive methods are used, then production is less. Then with that less production, is it possible to serve the growing population, ever growing population? So that's the problem here. For a growing population, this is a serious challenge. Agriculture, which provides livelihood for more than 60% of its population, because 60% of the population are dependent on agriculture as occupation. So we need some technical and institutional reforms in agriculture. So what are those changes brought down? So those are the changes here. So what is it? Collectivization, consolidation of holdings, cooperation and abolition of zamindari. These all comes under institutional reforms. Okay, what do we call them as? Institutional reforms. So what is the first institutional reform? Collectivization means the whole land which has been split into different parts. If you remember 9th class Palampur lesson, you have seen the land area. Can you remember the chart? How the land is being distributed among the people? Small land holdings among major group of people. So very difficult to use latest technology on a small piece of land. Instead of those small farmers come together and the cooperation. Okay, if the five farmers come together, cooperate with each other, and if they are able to consolidate their holdings, means bringing their agriculture fields up together. Suppose a farmer has some 2 acres of land, each farmer has 2 acres of land, so 5 farmers. If all of them come together, 10 acres of land, one type of crop can be grown using the latest technology, then production will be more. So for that, consolidation of holdings, okay, collectivization and cooperation among the farmers can help in the increase in the productivity. At the same time, what is another thing done? Abolition of zamindari system. Zamindari system was introduced by Cornwallis in 1793 through Permanent Settlement Act. You have studied this in your class 8. You may not remember, but you can listen now. It was introduced in the provinces of Bengal, Bihar, Orissa and Varanasi, and this is also known as Permanent Settlement System. As per this Zamindari system, what happened? Zamindars were recognized as owner of the lands. They were given rights to collect rent from the peasant. Overall, one village area, majority of the land will be in charge is Zamindar. The realized amount would be divided into 11 parts. Whatever amount he has collected as revenue from those villages, it will be divided into 11 parts. From those 11 parts, one part belongs to Zamindar, and remaining 10 parts of share is given to East India Company. Even with one part of share, we can see the zamindars are really rich. In movies and all, you might have seen zamindars, very rich people. So you can imagine the East India Company, which has taken 10% of the share, like among 11 parts, one part to zamindar, 10 parts to East India Company. This is just a small example how East India Company has exploited India and Indian farmers. Along with these institutional reforms, there is one more land reform, was the main focus of first 5-year plan. When it comes to 5-year plans, 5-year plan is the plan made by the government for the economic development of a country. Let's have a look at the 5-year plan still now. Okay, these are the 5-year plans from the year 1951 to 2017. Actually, we had 12 5-year plans by now. From 2012 to 2017, one more 5-year plan. When BJP government has taken its position as government in India, they have cancelled these 5-year plans. In that place, Niti Aayog is been set up by the BJP government. So now we don't have, and this 5-year plans is been made by Planning Commission actually. That Planning Commission is discarded. In its place, Niti Aayog is been set up. So these are the 5-year plan. 5-year plan means a planning done by the government for the next 5 years for the economic development of the country. So when the first 5-year plan is been made, main focus is on land reform. Along with that, there is one more thing known as right of inheritance. Right of inheritance in the sense, suppose if a person is there, he has 2 sons, what happens, and he has some 10 acres of land. What happens? The 10 acres of land will be divided as per right of inheritance among 2 sons as 5 acres and 5 acres. Again, for the next generation, suppose if they have 2 more sons, then it will be divided into 2.5 acres. So as the generations are passing on, what happened? The land holding, the size of land holding is decreasing. It's becoming fragmented due to right of inheritance. Lead to fragmentation of land holdings. So what happened now? So now the necessity has come to consolidate these land holdings, so that on the small pieces of land, agriculture, latest technological changes can't be brought down on the small bits of land. Okay. The laws of land reforms were enacted, but the implementation was lacking or lukewarm. As we know very well, lot many laws are there, but when it comes to implementation part, we have to work on it. Okay, so the government of India embarked on upon working. So the government of India has done its role to improve the Indian agriculture in the 1960s and 1970s, and we all know very well about the Green Revolution and the White Revolution. Green Revolution introduced to improve the productivity of agriculture, whereas White Revolution or Operation Flood introduced to increase the productivity of milk. But these two, Green Revolution and White Revolution, Green Revolution and White Revolution led to the concentration of development in few selected areas only. If you can remember, Green Revolution started first in Punjab and Haryana, later on it passed on to Uttar Pradesh, but south states are still not, because they are dependent more on monsoon. Irrigation facilities are lacking there, here in South India. Therefore, in the 1980s and 90s, a comprehensive plan has been introduced as part of institutional and technical reforms. What are those reforms? What are those changes that have been brought? First one, provision of crop insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, fire and disease. Whatever natural disaster is there, due to any natural disaster, suppose if leads to crop failure, no need, the farmer gets crop insurance. Then second one, establishment of Gramina banks, and then cooperative societies. All these points we will discuss in detail when we were discussing money and credit lesson in economics. And at the same time, banks providing loan facilities at low rate of interest, because this was lacking in the villages. Many villages used to go to the money lenders, traders, and they go into the debt trap. In order to overcome and in order to help the farmers, the Gramina banks, cooperative societies have come forward and they started giving loans at a less interest rate and without collateral to the villagers. Along with that, there were many other schemes done by the government. So, Kisan credit card and personal accident insurance scheme. These two schemes were introduced by the government to help the farmers. Along with that, special weather bulletins and agricultural programs for farmers were introduced. If you click on TV channels, some channels, daily news will get weather bulletin. At the same time, only for the purpose of agriculture, we have a special separate channel, Annadata. You might have seen, daily one program will come to help the farmers, to create awareness among the farmers. Were introduced on radio and television. The government also announces minimum support price. Can you recollect it? You have studied this last year. Okay, minimum support price, in the sense, suppose a farmer who has sown rice. Okay, what happens? Kharif season, no, at a time bulk rice will be in the market. So when supply is more, then what happens? The prices fall down. So once the product comes into the market, this product, looking at the product fell down, the farmer feels very disappointed. In order to help the farmer, save the farmer from such disappointment, government announces minimum support price during the time of sowing itself, that once the harvesting is done, we are ready to purchase from you at this price. So once the harvesting is done, its choice is up to the farmer. Either he can sell to the Government Food Corporation of India at the minimum support price, or he can sell in the market. This one to help the farmers from the less prices, are the marketing strategies of the traders. To help the farmers from this traders, government has announced this minimum support price. Along with that, remunerative and procurement prices for important crops, to check the exploitation of farmers by speculators and middlemen. These are the people, speculators and the middlemen are the one who exploit. To stop these people exploit the farmers, government has introduced a lot many schemes. All these things comes under technological and institutional reforms introduced by the government to help the agricultural sector. Let's watch this through just brief points I have made. Let me show you that. So let's have a look at the initiatives taken by the government to ensure increase in agricultural production. First initiative is the technological reform. Technological reforms, there you have seen like a full paragraph. No, here I have sorted on in the way of points. You can write it down in your notes also. Like technological reforms, introduction of modern inputs like providing irrigation facilities, using HYV seeds, use of fertilizers, use of pesticides, use of machines like tractors, tillers, harvesters, threshers. All this comes under technological reforms. Then comes institutional reforms like consolidation of land holding, abolition of zamindari system, widespread use of radio and television. All this we have discussed just now. Crop insurance, rural banking and cooperative society, minimum support price. These are the shortest form of technological and institutional reforms introduced by the government. So sometimes you may get a question, suggest measures to overcome the problem which the agriculture is facing. Then you can write these points. We have not yet discussed it, we will discuss it further. Like what is it? Decrease the use of inorganic fertilizer and increase the use of organic fertilizer manures. Like we all have seen the impact of green revolution due to more over usage of fertilizers, pesticides leading to water pollution, soil degradation. That problem can be solved with organic manures. And we use drip and sprinkle irrigation. Avoid excessive irrigation. Instead of using excessive, leaving the whole pipe towards the field, we can use this drip or sprinkle irrigation where water can with minimum water crops can be grown. Then make use of traditional seeds instead of hybrid seeds, because hybrid seeds need more water compared to the traditional seeds, because they are useful as per the particular climatic and soil conditions. Then comes use crop rotation and diversify the cropping pattern. As for example, if you see, we have seen that pulses are leguminous crops because they fix the nitrogen in the soil. They are good for the soil. It increases the soil fertility. So one crop of pulse and another crop of cotton, which reduces the soil, can be grown together. So this way crop rotation can be done, and diversifying cropping patterns can be used to increase the productivity of the crop. So these will increase incomes and reduce environmental degradation simultaneously. Suppose if you get a question, suggest measures to overcome the problems which agriculture is facing, these points can be written. Let's have a look at the case study of Vinoba Bhave and that movement known as Bhudan and Gramdan. Here Bhumi, we say in Telugu, land. Okay, donating the land. Gram, village, donating the village. So here this movement is done by Vinoba Bhave. He was a disciple of Mahatma Gandhi or follower of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi declared Vinoba Bhave as his spiritual heir. He also participated in Satyagraha as one of the foremost Satyagrahis. So he liked the concept of Gram Swaraj introduced by Mahatma Gandhi. After Gandhiji's martyrdom, Godse has killed Mahatma Gandhi. Then after that, Vinoba Bhave has wanted to spread Gandhiji's idea of Gram Swaraj among the people. So Vinoba Bhave took Padyatra in the sense walking on foot, to spread Gandhiji's message among the people of the country. So once when he was delivering a lecture at Pochampalli in Andhra Pradesh, even now also we have Pochampalli village in Andhra Pradesh. Some poor landless farmers demanded some land for their economic well-being. They said that you are saying many points. You are saying that Gram Swaraj is required. Swaraj means what? Self-rule. Gram Swaraj in the sense, Gandhiji's view is, if villages become self-sufficient, so ruling means no need to depend on the other people. if villages become self-suffice, self-reliant, then automatically the country will develop. That is the concept of Grama Swaraj. So villagers demanded, you are saying that self-rule, self-reliant, self-sufficient, but without land, what can we do? With how can we develop? Then Vinoba Bhave could not promise it to them because he do not have any land of his own. But he said that okay, I'll speak to government of India. At that time, in that meeting, there was a great person known as Sri Ram Chandra Reddy. Okay, he stood up. He was the zamindar of that landlord of that village. He stood up. He has vast area of land. Then what he has done? He offered 80 acres of land, and he has distributed among the 80 landless villages. So 80 landless people got 1 acre of land each, and this is known as Bhudan movement. Later, with this concept, he roamed all around India. Some zamindars, owners of many villages, they have distributed land. Even villages also been given to the poor people, which is known as Gram Dan. Okay, when people were distributing land and villages among the people, there was a talk that they are doing that because due to the fear of land ceiling act, because government, after independence, government of India started introducing land reforms. As per the land reforms, they introduced this act also, land ceiling act, means the person who has excess of land, it should be government will take charge of it. So they thought that anyhow government will take our land. Instead of that, if we distribute, we'll get name, fame within the society. So that is also one of the reason to distribute the land among the people. But yes, whatever the reason might be, poor people have got land as per this Gramdan and Bhudan movement. So this Bhudan and Gramdan movement initiated by Vinoba Bhave is also known as bloodless revolution. Hope you have understood till here.